Obim, the baby is dying. Only you can save it. She was not crying. She was not afraid. She was smiling. And that should have been the first warning. In the village of Umogu, between two old hills and a river that never dried up, there lived a man named Chukwuemeka. He was a farmer with gentle eyes and strong hands. He was known for one thing above all else: his patience. Neighbors said he was the only man in the village who could argue with a goat and walk away calmer than before. He married a woman named Adaeze, and from the very first week, everyone noticed two things. Chukwuemeka loved his wife deeply, and Adaeze loved being loved. When Adaeze got pregnant in their third year of marriage, the whole village celebrated. Drums were beaten, palm wine flowed. Old women sang songs they had not sung in years. But from the very first week of her pregnancy, Adaeze's cravings were strange. She did not want the usual things, soup or smoked fish or ground nuts. She wanted the sap of a specific tree collected before sunrise. She wanted mud from the deepest part of the river. And Chukwuemeka, because he loved her, brought her everything she asked for without complaint. The requests got harder every month. In the first month, she asked him to climb the tallest tree at the edge of the farm and pick 7 leaves from the very top, only leaves that faced east. He climbed. The bark caught his arms in 3 places. He brought the leaves. She chewed them and said the baby felt happy. In the second month, she asked him to fetch water from the river between 2 and 3 in the morning, the hour when even the crickets go silent. He walked through total darkness carrying a clay pot. He came back with the water. She drank it and smiled and said the baby was kicking with joy. Every time she smiled that smile, the fear in Chukwuemeka's chest melted away. His mother, Chioma, watched all of this and grew worried. She pulled her son aside one evening and spoke to him quietly but firmly. "My son," she said, holding his wrist, "a pregnant woman's cravings come from the child inside, but some things should not be asked for, and some requests should not be granted, no matter how sweetly they are made." Chukwuemeka nodded. He agreed. Then Adaeze called him from inside, and he went to her immediately. His mother watched him go and said nothing more. The 7th month was when everything changed. The night was completely dark. No moon, no stars. The air smelt of rain that had not yet fallen. Somewhere in the hills, an owl called out 3 times, which the village diviner always said was the sound of a door opening between worlds. Chukwuemeka had been asleep for 2 hours when Adaeze shook him awake. He sat up fast, certain something was wrong with the baby. But when he lit the lamp and looked at her, she was sitting up in bed, eyes wide and bright, smiling. "Emeka," she said softly, "I need something. The baby needs something." She told him she needed fruit from the ogodo tree. Chukwuemeka put the lamp down slowly and said nothing for a long time, because the ogodo tree was not something people in Umogu talked about casually. It stood at the center of the Forbidden Grove, an old stretch of forest at the edge of the village that the ancestors had sealed off 3 generations ago. 2 hunters once entered and came back changed, silent, hollow-eyed, speaking in a language no one understood until they stopped speaking altogether. For the first time in 7 months, Chukwuemeka said no. He said it quietly but completely. He told Adaeze he would go to the river again, he would climb trees again, he would dig in the earth with his bare hands, but he would not enter the Forbidden Grove. He said the elders had sealed that place for a reason. Even birds did not land on the ogodo tree. He was very calm, he was very clear. Then Adaeze began to cry. She did not cry in short bursts. She cried with a deep, sustained pain, holding her stomach and rocking back and forth, saying she could feel the baby getting weaker, feel life leaving her womb. She said Chukwuemeka was choosing old superstitions over his own child. She said she had given her body, her sleep, her comfort for this pregnancy, and he could not walk into a forest for her. She said things that hit him like slaps, about his dead father, about the child who would grow up knowing his father had done nothing. Chukwuemeka fought himself. He truly fought. But by the deepest hour of the night, He was standing at the edge of the forbidden grove with a knife at his belt and a burning palm frond for light. The grove was cold in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. It was a cold that sat in your chest and behind your eyes. The trees were enormous, their roots lifting from the ground like giant fingers. Silence pressed against him from every side. Not peaceful silence, but listening silence. The kind that makes you feel like the most fragile thing present. He found the ogodo tree at the center. He knew it immediately. It was the only tree in the grove with leaves, dark green and full of life, as though it drew light from somewhere else other than the sky. Its fruit hung low, round and dark red, smelling of something between sweetness and something much older. He reached out and took one. The moment his fingers closed around it, the silence broke, not with sound, but with a feeling like something enormous had sat down right beside him. He stood still. The fruit came away from the branch too easily, as though it had been waiting. He turned and walked back out of the grove without running, because something in him knew that running would have been his last mistake. He placed the fruit on the table beside Adaeze. She sat up immediately, as though she had not been sleeping at all. She took the fruit in both hands and looked at it with an expression he had never seen on her face before. Something beyond hunger, something like recognition. He told her to wait. He said they should take it to the diviner in the morning. Adaeze looked at him and said simply that the baby could not wait until morning. She ate it before he could stop her. She consumed it quickly, juice running down her chin and wrists, the dark red staining her lips until they looked almost black in the lamplight. When she finished, she lay down and fell into a deep sleep immediately. Chukwuemeka sat beside her till dawn, watching her breathe, and he did not sleep at all.
In the morning, she woke up glowing. Her skin was bright, her eyes were clear, and she said she had never felt better. For one moment, he allowed himself to believe everything was fine. 3 days later, the river began to smell. Not the clean smell of fresh water. It smelled rotten and deep, like something ancient had begun to decay at the bottom. The fishermen came back with empty nets. The fish were completely gone. The next morning, the oldest man in the village woke up and could not speak. His mouth opened, but only a whisper with no words came out. The village diviner, Ikena, had not slept well in 3 days. He had been dreaming of the ogodo tree. He went to the grove and found what he feared. The branch where the fruit had been taken was dripping a dark liquid. Where it fell on the ground, nothing grew. He went to find Chukwuemeka and asked him directly, "Tell me what you took from the forbidden grove." And Chukwuemeka told him everything. Ikena listened without interrupting. Then he explained. The ogodo tree was not just a tree. It was a boundary marker, a spiritual post planted at the meeting point between the world of the living and something older. Its fruit was not food. It was a key. Whoever ate it did not simply eat. They opened themselves. They became a doorway, and whatever wished to pass through that door would do so, and the passage would not leave the door clean. The danger was not just to Adaeze. It was flowing outward, into the village, into the river, into the soil. Everything Ikena said was confirmed in the days that followed. Animals died quietly. Crops near Adaeze's compound withered fast. Children woke at night from nightmares they could not describe. And Adaeze herself changed. She moved differently. She laughed at things that were not funny. She went silent at the wrong moments. Chukwuemeka looked at his wife and sometimes, in certain light, saw something looking back at him from behind her eyes that was not Adaeze. Something that had learned to wear her smile the way you wear borrowed clothes. Almost right, but not quite. Ikena gathered the village elders and they met through the night. There was anger. There was grief too, because Chukwuemeka was not a bad man and everyone knew it. The elders decided that the only way to close the door was to send back what had come through. Adaeze needed to willingly release what had taken root in her, and Chukwuemeka needed to return to the forbidden grove and give something back. Not the fruit itself, but a piece of himself, a genuine sacrifice that would cost him something he could not get back. Chukwuemeka agreed immediately. Adaeze did not. She sat among the elders and said no, with a calm certainty that did not sound like her voice, even though it came from her mouth. She said her child would be born and she would not change anything. She said the village could suffer its troubles because she had suffered through her pregnancy and no one had helped her. She spoke as though the dying fish and withering crops and frightened children were fair payment for other people to make on her behalf. Hearing those words from the woman he loved, Chukwuemeka felt something in him quietly break. What happened next has been told many different ways over the years. What everyone agrees on is this: Chukwuemeka walked into the forbidden grove alone at the deepest hour of the night. He had no weapon and no plan, only what Ikena had told him, and a grief so heavy it had passed through pain and come out the other side into something almost calm. What he gave back to the tree, no one saw. He returned to the village at dawn walking lighter, as though he had put down something very heavy and his body had not yet remembered how to move without the weight. The next morning, the river smelled clean. The fish returned. The old man who had not spoken in 5 days said his first words that he was hungry. That same morning, Adaeze gave birth. The child was healthy and perfect and cried with the full cry of someone completely alive. But when Chukwuemeka held his son and looked across at his wife, there was a distance between them that had not been there the night before. Not anger, not hatred, just a wide, quiet space, like a door that no longer fits because the house has shifted. Whatever was looking out from behind Adaeze's eyes was gone. She was only herself now, exhausted and human and deeply flawed. And she could see in her husband's face exactly what her requests had cost. The village survived. The curse lifted slowly over the following weeks, like fog burning away under morning sun. But the elders added a new saying to all the others they kept. They said it quietly at the end of other lessons. What a man fetches in the dark for a woman who will not be satisfied will one day wake up and walk through his house on its own legs. And they said it especially to young husbands who confused devotion with surrender and love with the inability to say no. Thanks for watching. Please do well to subscribe to this channel. We share new African tales every week, and when you support us, it helps us continue sharing these real human experiences.